from me, Felicity Duke, on a very sunny, cold, crisp winter's morning on the southern coast of the UK. Now today I'm going to do a sew along for you on the Arthur Pants. If anyone is interested, in the top I'm wearing above, it's very, very loose and it comes from Hot Patterns, and the information you will find in the description below. I will maybe do a sew along for this top a bit later on, but for today the subject is the fabulous Arthur Pants. Now these I found only this year. This is the third pair that I've made of Arthur Pants. I do things a little bit differently to what they suggest, but I'm just going to run through that with you. So here's the Arthur Pant, very, very loose, very baggy, with a lovely flat felled seam going down the centre of each leg. I like a loose trouser, we call them trousers in the UK, sorry, I'm going to be going from pants to trousers on this one. I can see that happening. Anyway, so this is the Arthur Pants. Love, love, love them. These I've made in linen. Now the difference I've made, they've got lovely pockets at the side, nice deep pockets. You know, you look cool, don't you? You walk around with your hands in your pockets like that. So yes, love the Arthur Pants. This is the difference. I always do a yoga band around the top of my trousers. Cannot stand waistbands, all right? Now, I'm 5'2". I don't worry that I'm short and wear baggy trousers. If I think I look good in something and I'm comfortable, then that's all you need. You know, confidence is about feeling good. And for me, baggy pants make me feel good. Okay, so the Arthur Pants use either a fly front with a waistband, which wasn't okay for me, might be okay for some. The other one, this is actually the third pair of Arthur Pants that I've made. The first pair I made in linen. By the way, I always use linen for them. The first pair of Arthur Pants that I made was in linen. Now the other alternative to the fly front, well, it's a band around. Sorry, it's a band around the front and elastic around the back. Now, I didn't find the amount of material that needed gathering into elastic, because you can do the elastic right the way around, comfortable, because it was so bulky on a linen that was heavy enough for these trousers. Okay, so, but I will not make a pair of trousers unless I can use a band around the top here. Now, I use a cotton Lycra, okay? Cotton Lycra. Now there's something that you have to understand with this pattern. You know, whatever size you do, you must make sure that the top of the trousers, you measure that pattern before you make these up, because you don't want to make anything too big. These trousers are loose enough as it is, and you certainly don't want any you don't want any more looseness around here, any more gathering than you need. All right, so get yourself a piece of fabric, piece of scrap fabric, anything. All right, machine it into a circle the same width as the trousers at the top here, without without anything going on. Just measure a piece of material, any old piece of material, and if you can get into it and pull it up, then you can put this band on. Now the first pair I made in a size 20, and actually I think these are a size 20, but during the first lockdown, of course, I was eating like an animal, like a lot of us do, or did, and second lockdown, I've kind of, you know, I've calmed down a bit now, you know, forget about the sweets, chocolate and cream cake, you know, I'm onto a bit of a healthy eat now. So I've lost a little bit of weight, but I will never be a slinky blinky. I will always be that girl that is delightfully plump. I'm going to now get my sewing machines out, and I'm going to sew along with you. And as I say, these trousers need a flat fell seam front and back, which takes a bit of time, but I think it's worth doing. Look, if you want to see my bottom behind, there we go. Okay, is that okay? Okay, so we're ready then. Let's get the sewing machines out and let's get going on this sew along, okay? I just thought I would show you actually the pattern here. All right, the pattern front. It's got a good outline on it, and you can see the shape of these pants, trousers. They go in slightly at the bottom. I like that shape. I don't like too much width flapping around my my ankles. Okay, so there you can clearly see, and it's a very size inclusive pattern, this one. Let me just have a look. Yes. Now apparently it is UK size 0 up to 30, so that is very size inclusive. All right, so the waist starts at 0, 25 inches and goes up to 48.5, but don't worry about that too much. You know, I know I did a 12 when I first did these because I really wanted to see if I did like them. So if you're not sure, the only part that wouldn't fit would be if you couldn't pull it over your hips. So just make sure that those hips are catered for. So here I am. I've set up my machine and my overlocker. Yes, I do use an overlocker. If you haven't got one, I wouldn't worry too much about that, purely because the felled seam doesn't need overlocking. You don't overlock it, and the rest of it you can use a zigzag, whatever you normally use. Now, what I wanted to say was I'm not going to show you how to cut out because this isn't a start sewing tutorial. It's easy, very easy. There are 2 pieces to the front of the leg and 2 pieces for the back of the legs. All right, so each leg has 2 fronts and 2 backs. The centre seam is a felled seam, and that's basically what I'm going to help you with at the moment. I'm using a brown material, so I'm not going to show you brown stitching, otherwise you won't be able to see anything. So you sew the centre seam as an outside seam, so don't sew it so that it goes inside, because otherwise if you're using a fabric which has a different outside to inside, you're going to get it's going to get too complicated. Right, so on each centre seam of the trousers you must do a 5/8 seam allowance. I'm going to demonstrate the front legs on 2 pieces of fabric on a dark with a dark thread, so that you can see the stitching better. So let's just say this is the right leg, this is the left leg. These are your 2 centre seams. You must make up your mind whether you want them to both go into the middle or both go to the outside. All right? You can't have one going one way and one going the other. So you either have them both going in or both turned out. A mirror image of each other. Now the next thing to do is to cut down your seam allowance. Now use your finger just to get in there and press it a little bit, and then you have to cut this down even less than 1/4 of an inch. Yes, it's scary, but that's what we have to do. So I've got that cut down, that one. Okay, so that one's cut down, and we're going to go over to the outside. So this one, because we've got the inside stayed longer, the outside one needs to be cut down again. So I'll just cut that down. Okay, so they're both cut down. Now these are your centre seams for your back leg and your front leg. Now I wouldn't skip on this, to be honest, because I rather like the fact that I did fell seams right the way down. I thought, I think it looks nice. So now this one, you need to turn it over. I don't like mine too narrow, so it is a bit of a fiddle, and there's no two ways about this. It is a fiddle, but I like it. I like a bit of a fiddle. Right, so then that one gets turned over there, and I'll go to the machine in a moment. I'm going to iron these over and then I'll be back. Right, so I've now pressed them over, as you can see under there. I've turned it over. Okay, keep an eye on your first seam that you did when you fold this over, and make sure that when you're folding it's the same distance right the way along. You'll get used to it. It takes a bit of getting used to, but as I said before, it is worth doing. As you see, both turned over to the outside. I've now machined down, so there's your felled seam. Your felled seam should have 2 rows of stitching that you can see, and the folded over piece, which is here, you need to machine close to the fold that you've done. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get on and do my 2, or my 4, there's 4 felled seams on these trousers. I'm going to get on, I'm going to crack on and do exactly like this on the 4 seams. All right, I just thought of something else I need to say. If you're a snipper of notches like I am, don't. Not on these trousers down the centre seam, because I found that out because I'm a snipper, and you need all that seam allowance, that very narrow piece, you need that to not have any snips in it. I use a gel pen. If I'm doing a dark colour, using a dark colour, and I want to mark notches, I use a gel pen sometimes. Okay, as I say, I'm a snipper, but down the centre front and the centre backs on these trousers, do not snip. I wish someone had said that to me when I did my first bit. 2 notches for the back. That is normal for most patterns, 2 notches at the back. So what I like to do is I get hold of the 2 notches there, particularly if you're doing a fabric which has got the same colour both sides. You know, there's not a right or a wrong side to them. So I normally pin that, okay, and then also in the same way I pin the other 2 together, just so that I know which way I'm going. All right, there you go. 2 notches together, but not snipped, no snipping, naughty. So when I've sewn my centre front and centre back seams, the first thing I do, so that I don't get confused, is to press the seams all the way that you want them to lay. In this case, I've done these ones towards the back, and not towards the outside, towards the centre, I should say. Okay, I just want to have a word about something else I've remembered. Yes, if you want to take these trousers up, you want to shorten them or lengthen them, please do it on the markings on the pattern where it says lengthen or shorten here. Don't do it at the end when you've finished, because these trousers are shaped like this at the bottom and you won't get the right shape at the bottom. All right, so that is one thing that you need to bear in mind. The other thing is that I need to mention is these trousers have a very dropped crotch, which I quite like because I like a high waist on my trousers. It's fine for me. That's where I'm most comfortable. Now, however, don't look at it and think that you'll take them up from the top. The reason being, you know, if you think you want to shorten the crotch, the reason being is if you take it off from the top, you're going to go into the pocket because the pocket goes right from the top here. If you take some off, you may not be able to get your hands in the pockets and that. So it's quite complicated to take them up from the top. All right, so just go with it. They're very comfortable. So once you've cut all your centre panel seams down like this, okay, can you see that? Once you've cut that down, I normally find it easier. Don't do it until you've cut them all down so that there's no mistake which way this should be turning. Once I've cut them down, I tend to then press the seam open. Right. Don't skimp on your pressing when you make anything, but particularly this. You need a steam iron to do this. Right, so now I can see how much I need to turn up because you've got to get that seam straight. It's a little bit tricky and a bit fiddly. What I normally do is I fold it over with my fingers like so. I fold over the whole lot and then I go back and press it over. Okay, so all 4 seams need to be done like that. I've now finished the flat felled seams on the front and back legs in the centre. So we're now going to place the pockets. Now the pockets are shaped like this. Okay, now this bit that's curved here, this one needs to go. Lay your pieces on the table, your front pieces, lay them on the surface with the right side showing. So this gets laid on there. Like so. Put a few pins in it. I tend to put pins going this way and machine over them, but do whatever you normally do. Pin, then remove when you get there or whatever. So lucky enough, it's a 5/8 seam allowance all the way on this. I like a 5/8 seam allowance. I'm used to 5/8. When they start saying things like use 3/8, I get a bit confused then. Okay, so that is where you place them, and you do your seam allowance down here at 5/8. Okay, so I'm going to get on and machine both pocket pieces, both sides. I've sewn both pockets on around the curve here. Hope you can see that. I can only just show you one really. Please be sure to put all your notches on your pockets, please, because they are very important when you're making these trousers. Don't leave any of them out. Right, so next thing I'm going to do, and I understand you can't see the stitching on here, but be sure I've got a row of stitching running down there. So I'm just going to cut my seam down, if I can see the... Gosh, that's a good match. I'll show you something actually that my mother-in-law bought me this Christmas. I've been wanting this thing for Christmas for years. And for those that don't know, I'm not going to harp about it because I don't think it's relevant. I do teach sewing here in the UK and have done for a very long while until lockdown started. And then I thought, right, okay, now it's time to make myself some clothes, which I haven't had time to do for the last 10 years or so. So, anyway, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these. Sorry you can't see my face, but the face is still there. Have you seen these? These are all Gutterman threads. Aren't they fantastic? I've seen my students come in with them, but they are quite expensive. But look, all the different colours of Gutterman thread. And then when you've used one, you replace it with the same colour. Fantastic. I love it. Thank you, Veronica. Right, so I'll put the information on that underneath so you can see. Okay, so I've now clipped on the curve there. Then this gets turned to the inside. And as usual, needs a press. I'm not going to top stitch it. I don't think it needs top stitching. I don't really, sometimes I like top stitching. It depends what I'm making. Okay, I'm just going to give them both a press. So here we are. I've given this a good press. I cut down the seam. I've put some snips in where it curves here. And I've pressed this over. I always press over, so there's a little lip there, so you can't see the stitching from the outside. All right, so as I said, really important for you to put your notches in. There's one there. There is a snip there because, as I said, don't do it on the centre front, but anywhere else is fine. So here is a snip here, where you have to fold, and there is the other end, 2 snips, one each end there. All right, and they have to line up. Right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to machine along here to hold this on, just a machine stitch, and just down there to hold it on the side there. I'll do this one and I'll do the next one, the other leg. So before I sew down the side seams, this piece here to keep the pocket on, I must just tell you that if you're going to neaten, either with your overlocker or a zigzag on a machine, now is your time to do it, because you can't get back into this seam after. So overlock it or zigzag and then attach here. The other thing I'd like to say, don't be put off by this notch here. I don't know if you can see this notch here, right? This pocket, when you've turned it, does not need to go up to there. That should be 5/8 away from where you're going to start machining down there. I know it's very dark and you can't see, but do you understand? Okay, so that is 5/8 from there, and that is 5/8 from there to that notch. So the notch is in the right place. Don't try and push it up to that notch there, because otherwise you're going to get a bit down there. Okay, so remember that it's just 5/8. That needs to be 5/8 from that snip and 5/8 to your seam there. So I'm now going to go ahead and I'm going to sew down the centre front seam, the crotch seam and the centre back seam. I've now sewn up the centre front seam and the centre back seam, and I'm now going to sew the back to the front, down the side seams and up the inside leg and down the other leg. This isn't the way that I would normally sew trousers together. To be honest, I normally do a leg at a time and then do the crotch round, but I'm just following the instructions to help you really. The next thing we need to do, after I have sewn the whole trouser together, there we are, whole trouser, there's the front. They look very big, and that's because they get pulled in a lot at the top. So now we need to discuss what you need to do or you want to do for the top of these trousers. As I said, the pattern gives you the option of a waistband and a zip at the front and elastic at the back. I personally don't ever have my trousers showing right to the top. Okay, I always wear quite long, longish tops that would cover whatever goes on at the top. So for me, it's not only I prefer the comfort of a yoga band, there's not a lot of point in me fussing about with a zip. No one's ever going to see it anyway. Okay, so the other option, as I said earlier, was to put elastic all the way around. But if you're using a linen, it can get quite bulky when it's being just gathered in like that. So that's the other reason for comfort. Right, so my advice would be, if you want to do the yoga band, is to buy some cotton Lycra. Now, I don't know if you've seen my last video, but I am on a mission to use up all my fabric, or a lot of it, that I haven't been able to use for years. Some of it I've had there for about 30 years. Right, so I did a video and I showed a selection of brown fabrics, of which this was in the selection. Okay, so I've pulled this one out to do the Arthur Pants with you. Right, so take a look at that video if you like, and if you like what you see, then subscribe, share, do whatever you want to do. Right, so having said that, I didn't have any brown cotton Lycra in my stash, but what I do have, what I did find was some ribbon, a fine ribbon, all right, and this has a certain amount of Lycra in it. So if you want to do this type of waistband, all you need to do is to either sew a band of cotton Lycra. I normally do a band of about 12 inches, all right, and it's folded over. Don't forget, you can't do this with a single. It's got to be folded over. So whatever you do, I think this one, I only had enough to cut about 10 or 11 inches, all right, but that's fine, absolutely fine. So now what I'm going to do is, lucky enough, this was already in a circle, so that's great news. So because the Arthur Pants are the same width front and back, all you need to do is, first of all, cut yourself. Now, then again, if you want to pin it, but I always think sometimes pins come out, they're a little bit iffy. So I'm just going to put a small snip that side, a small snip that side, and then I'm going to place the snips together, and I'm going to do a snip this side, and I'm going to do a snip the other side, so that we get 4 equal sections going. And then you've got to pull the hell out of it to machine it. So I'll just sort that out and get to my machine. Hopefully you can see that. I have got the band on the inside, and I've pinned my snip to the side seams, both side seams, and both the front and the back seam. All right, now I'm going to take this to the machine, and this is where you need to pull. Now you can do this straight on the overlocker if you wish, but I don't, purely because my overlocker does not like overlocking over rib very much. So I prefer to machine it first, which is fine because it's not going to stretch any more than the waist measurement. All right, it's not like you've got 2 pieces of stretch going together. You've got one woven and one stretch. Okay, so I'm just going to take some of the threads off so they don't get tangled up. Now, one interesting thing that I have found about the Arthur Pants, which I don't know whether I agree with very much, is the type of material that they recommend for this. Let's see, where are we? Fabric suggestions. I don't know, I'll find it anyway, and I will, no, don't know. I will come back, I'll come back to that. Anyway, I'm going to get on and machine this and pull like crazy. I don't know whether you're going to be able to see this or not, but what I do is I normally start on a side seam here. Okay. Start on the side seam, round about there. Right, put the needle up to 3.5, and then I just keep pulling away at it. Can you see that I'm stretching it like crazy? That's it. So you can see when you use something like rib, it's very ridgy. All right, so I'm gonna pull that hard. Pull that hard until we get to the next pin. Right, pull it hard. There you go. Now it's stretching along there. You do need this band quite tight. So when you know, find what you want to use, whether it's Lycra or whatever, it's got to be very, very stretchy, four-way stretch. Right, so there you go. So I've reached the first pin there. Okay, now I'm gonna just get on now and I'll show you when I've finished. So there you go. I'm finished with the trousers now. I think that's all I need to do. There's the pockets. They don't look nearly so wide, do they, once they've got this band on. Right, I've also finished the hem. I've just turned it up about an inch, overlocked and turned it up. I will later on overlock this, but I need to be very careful with it. So, as I say, if you're zigzagging, then please use that. I also have found the fabric and material recommendations on here, which I meant to... which I was trying to find. They are designed for a mid-weight woven fabric such as linen, gabardine, I'm not sure, gabardine, maybe a bit stiff, silk noir, or noir is it? I've never heard of that one. Lightweight twill or cotton chambray. You may make the elasticated waistband version. You can also use knit fabrics such as French terry, interlock or midweight jersey. Okay, so lovely pants, love them. I shall be making some in cotton for the summer for sure. Right, so that's my little sew along finished. I hope you enjoyed it. Please pop over and see some of my other videos and tutorials, particularly my last one where I show you the fabric that I'm going to use in my pattern reviews. All right, so join me again soon. Bye for now.